because I was never successful. I just had money.
That's
And
a bar.
it taught me a major
bar.
lesson. It wasn't until years later that I figured out my true gift was communication.
Yeah.
And when I can channel that in a way that serve people,
Yeah.
that's success.
Yeah.
Wealth, I think, is the ability to meet the needs of others without wondering, can you afford it?
Oh.
Man, I'll say it's twofold. What I say now, like the older me, I always tell people like that, you can't build a business bigger than you build yourself. You know, some people will tell money, go get me shoes and it'll get it.
Right.
Go get me a car, it'll get it.
Yeah.
People that truly understand wealth tells money, go get me more money. Bought my first house by 19, man. Business was good because I've always been able to make money. Whether it was club promotion, I was always finding something, buying it and selling it. And saw my first 6 figures before I even turned 21. And where I'm from, if you can pay for 2 people chicken milk plate at Waffle House, you was balling.
Right.
You're like smothered, covered, diced, and chalked on me.
Yeah.
But you know, I did well early on in life, took everything, kind of bet big on real estate, didn't know what I was doing, but was around it, and lost everything. This was recession. I didn't know how to read any of those things. Like, I know how to read, but I didn't know like what I was getting into.
Yeah.
When you invest in someone else's deal of a condominium building, all I know is that those 5 units are gonna be mine. This before Airbnb. The bank pulled his funding. He filed bankruptcy. Of course, everybody who invested in the deal lost everything. So I literally just like that went from having over 6 figures to $11.37.
Oh, wow.
I'll never forget at
Wow.
Regions Bank.
Yeah.
And I realized it was the greatest thing that ever happened to me because I was never successful. I just had money.
That's
And
a bar.
it taught me a major lesson. I was
You were never successful. You just had money.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a bar.
They're not the same.
Yeah.
I didn't know who I was.
Yep.
I was generous, but not really. I liked the attention that generosity got me.
Ooh.
It wasn't connected to purpose.
You ain't cutting to play. You came with some bars. Okay, go ahead.
Just think about the idea of people say that they don't like being used,
Right.
or they feel like, man, I don't want everybody to want me for my money, but I was insecure.
Yeah.
So imagine you going with Coogee outfits, which I didn't like at the time, just for somebody to say, boy, look at you in that Coogee, like this old thing. Well, really, that's why you bought it. Right. You bought a $100 ugly shirt so someone could acknowledge it.
Right.
You're taking people out to eat so you can feel a sense of belonging. So that's when I realized that success wasn't tied to purpose. It wasn't tied to legacy.
Yeah.
It wasn't even tied to my gift.
Yeah.
I just figured out how to make money, and I was great with relationships.
Yeah.
It wasn't until years later that I figured out my true gift was communication.
Yeah.
And when I can channel that in a way that serve people,
Yeah.
that's success.
Yeah.
You know, when I clearly identify that. So that, in a nutshell, that's my story, man. Went from that to nothing at all.
Yeah.
Went on a journey to find my purpose.
Yeah.
This was 2010, around that time.
Yeah.
And made a commitment to, I'm a church guy, man, so I grew up hearing about tithe and 10% and all of that, but I didn't have money. So I made a commitment to God. I'll never forget, mad, crying. Where I'm from, they call me Money Mark, but Money Mark ain't have no money.
Right.
Right? So I'm mad, like, how you let your boy go broke? I was gifted at an early age, did well in life, and I heard clearly, man, as clear as day, it was that epiphany moment, crying in the car, didn't know how I was gonna feed myself, going over 2 years eating ramen noodles, Jenny O turkey burgers, bread on a George Foreman grill.
Wow.
2 years straight, that's all I had. Wow. And from that to figuring out my purpose and making a commitment that every day that I would give my gift the type of my time. 10% of the day that I would learn reading, developing. I would take note cards, bro, and mute the TV and act like I was being interviewed.
Yeah.
I would write on cards words and I would try to speak for minutes on down, and I would remove all redundancies, ums, uhs, pauses, to learn how to be better at speaking once I figured out that was the gift. And man, that was October 10th, 2010. From that day to this one, man, I've never missed a day of what I call winning the day.
Wow, that's powerful. And when you started to transition to now, having those days where you didn't, you lost it all.
Yeah.
You don't know how you're gonna eat and all that. What did success look like? Like what was the next step that just said, all right, now,
Man.
I'm at that success level.
Man, I had such low expectations at the time because you know you can struggle so much that anything more than what you had at the time seemed like a lot.
Yeah.
So success at the time was, imagine going 2 years and never being able to pay all your bills at one time.
Yeah.
So it was either the light bill was late or the car note was late,
Yeah.
So throughout that time period, to me, success was just being able to have enough to take care of myself, to not have to worry about anything. That's what I really think wealth is. Wealth, I think, is the ability to meet the needs of others without wondering, can you afford it?
Oh.
So if like somebody got something going on,
Yeah.
if I'm in line and your car's declined, I want to do it.
Yeah.
I want to be able to do it without thinking about, can I afford it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
That to me was the only freedom I wanted.
Yeah.
Just the ability to help people
Yeah.
without being selfish and having to focus on myself. So in that hole was reading.
Yeah.
I was reading a book a week at the time, trying to educate myself, really learning my own voice, and then trying to figure out, now that you got skill development, but business development is a whole nother skill set.
Yeah, yeah.
So I developed this tremendous skill of speaking, but I still wasn't making no money like that.
Right.
So I had to figure out, that's when I got into book writing. 2015, 5 years later, wrote Win the Day, which was my first book. I self-published 4 books in that first year.
Yeah.
Things took off, traveled over 30 countries speaking, went on to write 23 books.
Nice.
Like crazy, man, just dumping ideas. So I would say what I was really thinking during those low moments, I would have moments of vision. I just knew without a shadow of a doubt, if I could figure this out,
Yeah.
I used to always think about how I would help somebody else.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing that kept me going.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then that, I know you said your parents were in the church, and is that where that level of reaping and sowing comes from? Like where was that mindset that told you? Because it's a biblical principle, it's a Quranic principle, it's a universal law. The more you give, the more you get back. Life is a mirror. And if I'm understanding correctly, it was early on you had money, but you didn't have success because that money, that success was predicated not on service. That it was predicated on attention, right?
Yeah.
And then the moment you started to switch, now how can I help? How can I sow seed? How can I sow seed? And then now as you started sowing seed, you now are able to reap. Is that from your background, or like where did that mindset shift start?
Man, I'll say it's twofold. What I say now, like the older me, I always tell people like that you can't build a business bigger than you build yourself, right? Because every part of business sits on you and who you are. So when we talk about whether you make $1 million or whether you make $3 million, is never enough to pay for lack of confidence, and that's going to contribute to sales, marketing, operations, running a team. So at the time, I realized I had to develop me. So back to what you were saying, I wish I could say I was intentional about it. I just realized very early on it was a faith principle that was embedded in me. My mother was always big on anything you had, like if I wanted new toys, not until you go find something to give away.
Yeah.
So she always instilled into me that principle. The older I get, I start realizing, man, on any level, even if you take it out of a faith setting, if you take it out of Quran, any book, I mean, if you think about nature, bro, in order the sky got to give up rain, the ground got to give up dew. Everything that's selfish dies. Right? There's nothing that lives that holds on to more than what it gives out. So the most basic principle of biology is give to what gives to you. So that's how money flows.
Yeah.
Give to what gives to you, and I started learning that, man, at a very early age. Like, how does money really work?
Yeah.
It's this idea that I always talk to people about when it comes to money, that people feel like wanting money will make you more money. I don't think so. I think that how your communication with it.
Yeah.
Some people will tell money, go get me shoes, and it'll get it.
Right.
Go get me a car, it'll get it.
Yeah.
People that truly understand wealth tells money, go get me more money.
Yeah, okay.
Right? And
Yeah.
then invest that into something that helps people, and then it'll attract it towards you.
Right.
So that's always been the principle, and it
Yeah.
still is for me now. I
Yeah.
never want to take more than I give.
No, I love that.